Recently, somebody left a comment in my meditation video, which I did some time ago. If you want to check out that video, I'll put a link in the description below. This is going to be a follow-up to that video, and I want to say thanks to Pie on the Trail for leaving the comment, not only for the feedback, but it served as a reminder that, because for some time after I made that video, I had wanted to do a follow-up video. So, yeah, here it is. I figured, why wait around anymore? There's some stuff I wanted to discuss further, involving, meditation or active, getting into that zone or whatever you want to call it. I think one of the things that has also kept me from doing the video is that I found that it was difficult to describe the specific nuances and details of, say, for example, my different states of mind whenever I'm either trying to get into the zone or when I'm in the zone. These are very abstract states of mind, so of course it's going to be difficult to articulate. So that held me back until I just pushed myself to discuss it further with some friends of mine. And after having a few different discussions with friends, I felt like I could explain to them better, kind of how, like, my process of getting, into that meditative state. So I'd like to share that with you, and then after that, talk about different tips and tricks as far as how to get into that, zone, or how to, be a more effective or efficient, meditator or what have you. And there's going to be a whole lot of things that can affect your ability to do this. For example, I don't do this. I don't meditate as much. I don't get into that meditative state of mind whenever I'm with friends, for example. It's more a social thing. Yeah, there's moments, of course, when I'll slip into it, sure, but for the most part, when I'm with friends, it's mostly about that social dynamic rather than a meditative experience, right? Then, of course, if you have a cold, there's been times I've gone backpacking because I'm stubborn, and I, don't. If I set a date aside, I have to go backpacking on a day usually. So if I have a cold or whatever, and I go backpacking anyway, yeah, your physical health is going to also come into account. And also, I notice this is a part of it when it comes to physical fitness as well. Now that I'm able to hike further, I feel like I'm in all right shape, but when I've been in less all right shape, and I'm huffing and puffing, or if I injure myself, these are distractions, and of course, I can take away from that. But even still, with these distractions, you can still, slip into things even naturally. I've been doing this for quite some time now. In fact, my meditation kind of journey began right around the time that I became very interested in backpacking. So you're looking at about 20 years or so. So anyhow, all these things, to take into consideration. But first, let's talk about these different stages. So as I said, I was talking to friends and I was having difficulties explaining things because I got asked questions like, how do you not think? Because I would say, when people say, like, what is, meditation like? And I say, well, you're not thinking, you're just existing. And people, rightfully so, my friends, I have, friends who are more scientifically oriented. I'm very much into science too, but I have one friend in particular who is a doctoral student in physics, and they asked me, like, well, you have to be thinking something. There's got to be something going on in your mind. And I couldn't really, delineate that point. So we moved on. But then in a discussion later on, after I gave it some thought on my own, I then was able to describe to them more accurately, at least how it's like. So I divided into 3 stages, right, of this meditative state. One is like when you are able to shut the ego up a bit. I would say your normal, like, state of mind, or at least I'll speak for myself, my normal state of mind is when you're going around doing mundane things in your life, chores, or going to work, or doing whatever. You have that kind of rambling voice, the ego that's just blah, 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 blah. I'll do this, do that. Don't forget this, don't forget that. Make sure, you have to, don't drop that there. Make sure you pick that up now. Oh my goodness, it's all these things rambling in your head. And this can be very, it's tedious and stressful. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's important to try and shut that voice up, to shut the ego up. It's a very worthwhile and healthy, experience. So let's put that aside. I'm going to focus on now, the three stages that, and these are completely arbitrary. I made this up on my own to better articulate what I'm talking about when it comes to these abstract states of mind. So stage one is going to be whenever I like get to the trailhead, typically, right? I'll get to the trailhead and I'll hike a couple hundred meters, and I'll notice that the ego is taking the back seat now. Rather than, blah, 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 I will just kind of naturally just only mention things that are very pragmatic. Like, for example, oh, I'm thirsty. Drink some water. Oh, my shoulder strap. Let me fix that. And then it's quiet for longer and longer chunks of time. Once these chunks of time get, longer and longer and longer, eventually, it moves on to like stage two. And stage two, I found a great example to get my friends to relate to me, and that's music. Think about your state of mind when you listen to music, when you are simply experiencing the music and being in that moment, listening to that music. And feel free to Google all the effects of the brain whenever you listen to music, because you get things like dopamine, and you get things like, even adrenaline. If you're really involved in in this music, it's very moving to you, right? And then that's a great way to relate to this next kind of state of mind, or what I'm calling stage two. It's like no longer words, right? I'm acting, moving, but not really thinking on a like verbal utterance level in my brain with my ego. It's just every now and then, sure, there might be a distraction, right? Which I think is also a big differentiation between like stage three and stage three. But like, where there's like a little distraction, like I'll see a beautiful mushroom, for example. I'm like, oh, mushroom. So briefly there'll be just like a whisper, like, oh, mushroom, or oh, I'll like snag my foot on a root or something, and I'm like, oh, ouch, or whatever, right? Just quick little distraction, right? Sure. I mean, then that can happen while you're listening to music, while you are listening to your favorite piece of music. Your cell phone rings, or your cat jumps on the sofa, or whatever, and you can get just a moment, but then you can get right back into that moment again, because you're already there. So you're just like, you kind of dip and you're back up, right? Then there's well, before I mention stage three, I found too, when I explained this whole music connection, my friends were able to like really kind of get that, and we were able to have very interesting discussion about what other things cause you to be in that moment. I think that's a great discussion that you should have with that everybody should have, like with their friends and family. Like, what gets you to be in that moment, and what, yeah, that's a side note. But so stage three, this is when there is a stillness of the mind. That's when you're at that mushin, as I mentioned in my last video, that kind of presence, that mindfulness, whatever you want to call it. And unfortunately, and I expressed this before in my last video, a lot of this has become cliche. A lot of people kind of throw these terms out there very loosely, and that it kind of annoys me as a person who tries to take this seriously, because like anything else, like this is a skill that requires practice and patience and persistence, right? If you look at people, for example, like a writer that I really like, and I've read several books, though I have not gotten his most recent book, on which pertains to this subject, which is called Waking Up, and that's Sam Harris, who is all about meditation. He's gone on many retreats and seminars and all that. I've taken a few courses on. He's doing the sit down type meditation, right? But I'm talking about like an active meditation. It's different, but I feel like you're getting to that same place of removal of the illusion of self, or that the ego is not there, or no more expectations, and no more thinking of the past or what's to come. You're there in that moment. Yeah, then that's the goal, is this like kind of third stage, And again, this is just these three stages. Maybe this will not work for you. Maybe you're a person who I don't know, you're trying to meditate and you might have 10 different little steps along the way, or maybe you can just boom go right to three. I don't know, but that's just how I kind of go about things. And as I said before, because I've been doing this for some time, and in fact, I've actually noticed since doing the last video on meditation, I've been more cognizant of that since I put it out there for public discourse. Going out on backpacking trips after that, I kind of paid more attention, like, not only to better articulate it, to my friends, but also if I want to do a follow-up video, like how do I, kind of explain this, and it's great to, for example, pack up my gear, and already as I'm packing up my gear, and I go to the bus and or a train or whatever to get out to the woods or the trailhead, I'm already getting to that kind of stage one, right? Before I even hit the trailhead. Then maybe, on a good day, I get to the trailhead and I'm already on like that stage two where it's like that stillness of the mind. And then, you know, an hour or two later, then I'm in that wonderful in the moment zone, right? Now, as I said before, that's not always possible, and don't feel bad if you can't, do this right away, especially if you don't have much experience with this, right? There's going to be things that are going to affect it. Maybe you have something emotionally that is distracting you too, not just physically. Maybe there's just an emotional problem in your life. You're upset about something. My best advice, and I think I've expressed this before on a, I think it was a comment on my blog or elsewhere, but I explained, to somebody else asking about this, is my advice is to embrace that, problem and just try and take it on head on, right? Because here, what I found is one of two things will happen. You're upset about something. One is you'll figure out a solution, possible solution, or closure on that problem, right? I'm upset about X for whatever reason. Let me think. And you're hiking, and your ego's blah blah blah. But maybe you need to, if the ego is like a baby, kind of give the baby the bottle. Like, okay, ego, go. What do you want to, what do I want to say to myself? What do I need to work out? And just kind of get it out of the way. So then you can go on to focus on that meditative state, right? Or you will get bored, right? So you either come to kind of closure or solution or possible solution, or you will just, after an hour of hiking, there's this problem that's bugging me and I can't seem to solve it now. And I'm bored. I'm sick of thinking about. I'm going in circles, and it's just boredom. So the ego, you just kind of like lose interest. It's like, all right, I don't want to think about this anymore, and you can move on. And you maybe, often I found, from my experiences, after I get back from a trip, and after I have, like, a really good trip, and maybe I got to really nice, meditative states, that on the way home, like on the bus, train, or home, I'll reflect back and the ego's taking back over as I think about, okay, when I get home, I have to do this and that and the other, and I kind of, I'm unraveling, all the minutia that, has to happen in the future. I'm not in the present at all. I'm now thinking about the future, what to do. But then all of a sudden it'll occur to me, because now I can think with perhaps a more clear frame of mind after kind of, relaxing with this backpacking for 2, 3, 4 days, however long. And I'm a section hiker, if you don't know that already. And I'll be able to deal with it more effectively. All right. But yeah, we're approaching 15 minutes now, and I've rambled on and on about that. I hope that this kind of delineation of these three different stages of this active meditation helps. If not, feel free to modify that, and also like tips and tricks to get into it. Breathing, of course, is just something you're gonna have to experiment with, right? I find that my breathing changes all over the place, but I naturally kind of get to these different stages. Be aware of your emotional state. Deal with problems if you have to. Be aware of your physical state. If you have a cold, or I don't know, you cut yourself or whatever, right? That's going to be distraction. And of course, you may have to deal with that or not. This is still something I'm learning with quite a lot as I go along, but yeah, it's one of my favorite parts of backpacking. Hope this is helpful. Leave a comment. Thanks. Goodbye.